Hi, my name is Ken, and you're watching Mastering UX. Today, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about card sorting. I want to read you this quote. It's impossible to design good information architecture without the input of your users. Listen to your users, understand their language, learn about how they organize their things, and how they search for something. All of these things will help you avoid 80% of the mistakes. So this quote comes from Sharif Amin. He's a user experience consultant. When is card sorting useful for a UX designer? Well, there's a couple of times that you really want to go to card sorting, and that is when you feel that your user testing is not going to be enough to find out how the users will feel for your navigation problem. The second time is when you're working with the business and you have some sense that the business doesn't understand how users think about their information anymore. So sometimes you work with your business, and your business has been in this kind of world in a bubble. They've been in kind of their own jargon and dialogue for several decades, and it's hard for them to understand how a user thinks about their information. In such cases, you really want to go back to the users and validate that some of the terminologies, the categorizing, the nomenclature, all these things make sense to the user. Another reason why you want to do card sorting is that sometimes there's just many ways of organizing something, and it can be actually quite confusing whether you feel that one way is the main way of navigating or another way. Sometimes certain topics don't feel exactly like they fit exactly in one category. So when you're in this kind of dilemma, it's good to kind of allow your users to put the task on them, that they have to work out the solution. And then the last reason why you want to do card sorting is when you want some ideas. A lot of times users have ideas that are a lot better than what you're thinking or what your business is thinking. So what does card sorting look like? Well, card sorting looks like, cards. Of course, they could be index cards, they could be sticky notes. Basically, the idea is that you take about 20 to 30 topics. That's about the right number, because if you try to generate too many cards, it'll be inundating. And if you don't generate enough cards, it's not going to be challenging enough. But you take these index cards, you generate 20 to 30 of them. It could be for the whole website, or it could be for a particular section of your website. And then you're going to want to recruit participants. If you're doing it in person, you're going to want to have about 6 people. And usually with qualitative testing, 6 is the number for kind of getting this. You start to experience a diminishing returns on what you're doing. If you're doing this online and it's a digital card sorting that you're doing, I would argue that you're really shifting your study over into a quantitative study that's more about behavior and less about observation and attitudes. And so in this case, you're going to want to raise that level of volume of participants up to about 20. And then the next step is basically to put these cards into your users' hands, explain to them that they should group these cards, and you can set up different rules. You can decide to make them, have a fixed amount of groupings, or you could tell them to group them however they desire. And what they're going to do is they're just going to lay these out on a table. And if you're in person, you're able to kind of observe how they're grouping these things. You can observe how long they're spending on certain items, if certain things seem less intuitive than others. Part I want to mention to you is there's this option to moderate questions, and moderation can be done all throughout, which has the potential of biasing your study, but sometimes you're not so worried about biasing your study, and you're really looking to get some interesting ideas and insights, so you're not worried about that too much. If you are a little bit worried about biasing your study, then it's great to be able to save your questions to the very end. And in such cases, you can ask questions such as, was there anything that you felt that, should go in 2 categories or more? Was there any particular topic that you felt especially difficult? If you had the chance to rename any of these kind of cards, would you do so? Was there anything else that wasn't so clear to you? So I mentioned these kind of variances, and there's also this variability of whether it's an open card sort or whether it's a closed closed card sort. And so if it's a closed card sort, what you're going to do is you're going to give them, say in this instance, a green card. You're going to have them organize and group those cards, but they're going to have to do it within a fixed amount of topics. If you're doing an open card sort, you kind of see the green card, it's blank. You're going to give them the opportunity to label that card set however they feel. I do want to make mention, you can also do a hybrid where you force them to kind of put their categorization into a fixed amount of cards but then you also leave room for them to create their own categories. So this matter of weighing your options, there is the option of doing it online or in person. Sometimes you really don't have the choice, but you have to do it online, especially we've just been through the pandemic and we've definitely found that working from home is really the way to go, and so do your participants feel that way. If you have no other choice, you can do it online. The other option is to do it in person, and there's lots of advantages of doing this in person. You're getting to observe, you have the optionality to ask them questions. You're going to be able to see all the pain points, face expressions, hesitations, things that look confusing to them. There's a lot that can be gained out of this kind of in-person card sort. The next one is you can do it as kind of a focus group where they get to work it out as a team, and if it's harder, you may find that team is able to come up with sort of the best solution by working as a team, and that may give you some better ideas. There's also doing it one-on-one, and the good thing about that is you're not going to have the dynamic of having some dominant personality kind of dictate how things go. People are just really working off intuition, what feels right. If they make mistakes, that's okay, and a lot of times there's a lot of insight in those mistakes. And then there's this matter of doing it moderated versus unmoderated. I talked about this a little bit. If you're doing it online, you have no option to do it in a moderated fashion. But moderation definitely has its benefits. You're definitely able to ask probing questions. If you notice something, you find that something's odd, you see that they're doing something completely wrong, you're able to probe in on that. And then there's the matter of doing it open versus closed. I'm going to kind of tell you my preferences. In general, I'm always going to opt for it to be in person. I would like it to be one-on-one, but I'm not opposed to being done in groups. And I'm always going to choose for it to be moderated. And if I don't have the choice for it to be moderated, then it's just going to end up being more of a quantitative type of study. Lastly, on the open versus closed, I can go either way on this, and it really depends on the kind of information that you're dealing with. If you feel that your information is very difficult to work with, then you're going to want to go with a closed environment. And if you feel that you're going to be forced to put your navigation structure into certain buckets anyways, you may want to decide to do it closed. So card sorting, what does it help you understand? Well, one of the things that's going to help you understand is your user's expectations and their understanding of topics. By being able to spend time with them and seeing how they behave and interact and seeing their kind of relationships on how they think about things, you're going to get a lot of insight on how they think of things, how they see things. You're going to get to see the user's mental models, to see the relationships that they see. Even if they put the card in one spot and put it in another spot, you get to see that they see two relationships, but they kind of feel that it more belongs to another category. And then there's going to be these kind of opportunities to see both issues and areas for improvement in your labeling. And then finally, you can be able to see new ways of arranging your navigation. A lot of times they'll come up with an idea that you never thought about, and that gives you a spark of inspiration. So I wanted to leave you off with a few points that I think you should remember is just remember card sorting is just one tool in your toolbox. It's not the right tool. I would say it's actually not going to be the most frequently used tool. But if you do have this kind of problem where you realize that you may not understand the user's concepts, on their mental models, on how they see your information, how they relate that information. If you already know this, card sorting is a great thing to do. You may not be able to test everything in a completely ideal way. And so just realize that some testing is always better than no testing. And so if you need to take some shortcuts, if you're not able to do as many participants as you like, if you're not able to do it in person, if you find that you have to just only do one focus group, just remember some testing testing, being able to observe and be curious with your users, being able to empathize with your users, a little bit of testing is always better than nothing. So don't be discouraged. The third point I wanted to bring out was card sorting. It's not for you to kind of take a snapshot of and say, this is going to be our solution. It's really just for you to make observations of your users. It's really for you to make observations, to get insights, and to take those kind of understandings of how your users understand your navigation, and then begin to formulate something with some new ideas. The last thing that I'm going to mention is that, tree testing is a lot better for findability. So card sorting, yes, it is a very specialized user research method, but card sorting is a little bit more for the holistic kind of organization of your information architecture. But tree testing is really designed for you to capture, can they find a specific needle in the haystack, if you would. I'm going to add on one more item, and that is, keep in mind that card sorting doesn't tell you all the nuances that'll happen after this information is presented in a design. A lot of times something may not seem logical, but when it's designed in the right way, when it's presented as you also might like, here's some other information, here's some popular things, either logically in our minds with cards, it may not seem like a logical groupings. On a web page with design, it may be a completely different story. So there you have it. That's card sorting. I hope you found this useful. I'll see you on the next episode.